When talking to my children about homosexuality being a sin, I would point to different things like in Corinthians. My daughter will go back to Old Testament and say things in Leviticus that were sins then, make no sense now, would not have been sins. I myself can't put it like, if this is the Word of God and God is all-knowing and He doesn't change, how is it that certain things that were sinful in the Old Testament are not in the New Testament?
Okay, so here's what I would say about this. Now, Jack, you may disagree with me on this, but I would, just for the sake of strategy here, I would argue that, first of all, I will not go to the Old Testament to make the case. I think you got more than enough evidence biblically in the New Testament to support your position. In the Old Testament, you do have additional evidence to support your position. But remember that law given in the Old Testament is slightly different in the sense that we know that all laws are developed and given specific to regions and points in history. So a law that applies to Detroit, Michigan may not have any application here in Los Angeles. It's specific to region. But even more importantly, a law here in California, written in the 1800s about where you can put your horses, is specifically tied not only to a region, Los Angeles, but to a time in history in Los Angeles. What I'm seeing so there are also, municipal codes, state laws, and federal laws. These are all different kinds of laws that are created for specific regions and specific times in history. What I see in Levitical law is a law that's for a specific group in a specific region at a specific time in history. In those laws, in Leviticus, there are, of course, federal laws, basically, universal transcendent laws that still apply today. But clearly, some of those Levitical laws are for a specific people group. Yeah. And how they are to eat, or how they to prepare, how are they to drink, because it's talking about that specific group in that specific region. Now, interestingly, the universal laws related to homosexuality are repeated again in the New Testament, but they're also in the Old Testament. But a lot of things that were specific to that region and time and history are not repeated in the New Testament because they aren't specific to that time and region, which shouldn't surprise you. This is the nature of law. It's always given to regions and people groups in a specific time in history. But you'll see the transcendent laws end up repeated in the New Testament. That's how you know they're not just limited to that people group. And this is one of those laws, homosexuality, which transcends all of those eras. So I would say that's why that's one of those things you have. For example, so is the law about murder. So is the law about adultery. These things appear through every epoch. But there are certain laws in that region which were clearly municipal codes and state laws relative to that people group. And you might wonder, well, why are they so harsh? It seems like some of those Levitical laws are really harsh. And how I like to look at it is this way. You have this nation of Israel, which is a child that is being raised from the Old Testament to today. And when you have a young child, you are often, my mom was pretty harsh with me growing up, at least in the beginning. I remember one time I was watching a kid in front of us shoplift a candy bar off a shelf, and so I thought, I'm the next kid up. I picked up the candy bar to do the same thing, and my mom, being a good Italian mom, slapped me in the face and said, "You put that back." And I was like, well, wait a minute. The other kid you didn't say anything about. And I had the guts to say that. And she said to me, "That's not my kid. You're my kid. We don't do that." That's what she said to me. And what you see is a certain harshness at the young nation of Israel, that God works with that young nation. That doesn't surprise me, because you're my people. You're not that people. Okay. And so that's a very harsh kind of a way to approach. But I think I learned a lesson, and I understood my identity better. And I think that's what God is doing with Israel.
Wait, so the short answer is the Old Testament applies to Israel, the New Testament applies to the world. Good night. Thank you very much.